Hi guys, welcome to my first YouTube video. My name is Louise Xo. If you follow me on Instagram, you may know me as Louise Xo. I decided to keep things pretty chill for my first video, so I've just done more of like a little everyday wearable look. So if you're interested in seeing how I achieve this look, then just keep watching. So I'm going to start by going in with my eye base. As you can see, I've already done my brows off camera because I felt like that was just a little bit too advanced for me to try and figure out how to record for my first tutorial. And I'm just taking a flat paintbrush and lightly patting this the whole way across the lid. I'm really trying to layer the product up so I can build a nice clean opaque coverage. And then once I'm happy with my coverage, I'll just start to extend it out to the sides. So out towards my temple and also into my tear duct on towards my nose. And this is going to create a barrier around the eye, so whenever it comes to doing my foundation, my concealer, I don't have to worry about that getting too close to the actual eye makeup, so I'm not going to risk hitting it. And I'm not going to set this base at all. I like to work on a tacky base. I feel like that just pulls the pigment out of your shadows so much more, so it makes everything really pop. And this also will dry down itself. The PLOUISE base does dry down, so all I'm going to do is pat over it to help it dry quicker. Then I'll take a wee clean fluffy brush and blend the edges I've extended to make sure they're still nice and seamless back into the skin. So I'm going to go in with a bronzer for my transition shade. This is Dark Golden from MAC. I absolutely love this as a transition colour. It's just such a nice shade. It's not too warm, not too cool. And I like to start in the deepest part of my crease and then bring it round towards the end of my lash line, and then I'll just pull it out towards my temple. So this is going to extend the eye and make it appear longer. The key here is to be really light with your pressure because we are working on top of a wet base. If you're too heavy handed, you're going to start to pick up the base and you start to get a little bit more textured. So to get a smooth blend, the lighter your pressure, the better it's going to be. Then I'll just start to follow my natural crease shape in towards my tear duct, and I like to do this with my eyes open. I have quite hooded eyes, so I feel like if my eyes are open when I'm blending, it's so much easier to see the shape. And I'll also bring my products quite high, so this is really going to start to push the hooded skin up and make my eye appear larger, more open. Just make sure as you get closer towards your brow, you're using less and less pressure so you can keep this really seamless. I think it's fine to bring your shadows high as long as they are well blended. If it looks harsh, it's just kind of out of place. So once I'm happy with my first shade, I'm going to go in with a slightly deeper bronzer. This is Ting from FENTY, and this time I'm going to use a smaller fluffy brush just so I can keep more control over where I'm positioning this. We're pretty much going to do the exact same thing that we did with the first colour, only this time I'm going to focus most of it on the outer corner of the lid. So again, I really want to extend the eye. I want to get a nice smoky outer lash line, so it's going to lift the eye as well. Then I'll start to push it up into my crease, and again, I like to do this with my eye open, so I like to see my natural crease shape, and this is going to give the eye a little bit more definition and really help to shape it. Again, because I am quite hooded, I'm going to bring this quite high, just making sure I don't completely take over the lighter bronzer. I still want that to be the last thing that fades back into my skin. Then I'll just go back around the edges with my Dark Golden again, my lighter bronzer, being very light-handed and using the tiniest bits of product. I just want to make sure this is still blending really seamlessly back into the skin. I'm going to be very careful not to come too low with this one because I don't want to start to take away too much of the darkness. I just want to go right around the edge of it. Then once I'm happy with my blend, I'm just going to go in and start to brighten up the inner half of my eye. So I'm going to take the same PLOUISE base on our little paintbrush and start to pat that on, following my natural crease shape. And I bring it about 3/4 to halfway across my lid. I do put it on quite structured to start with, just because I have quite flat hooded eyes, so I want to give it a little bit more shape first, but I don't want it to be sharp. I don't want it to be like a cut crease. So then I'll take whatever's left on the brush and just start to give my edges a little pull to keep them really diffused. Then to make sure it's really well blended, I don't want to see any harsh edges, I'm just going to take a wee clean fluffy brush and start to blend the PLOUISE base back into my bronzers. Being very light-handed with this again, I want to make sure I don't pull one too far in the way or one too far out the way. And then I'll just go back in and re-add my bronzers to the outer corner. So I still want to keep that quite smoky on the outer corner, so I'm going to go back on my darkest bronzer first, just taking very small amounts at a time and being very light-handed. And then right where the darker bronzer meets my PLOUISE base, I'm going to lightly pat a little bit of the lighter bronzer, the Dark Golden. So just want to make sure I've got a nice gradient going from dark into light. And I'm patting this because I am working on top of the base a little bit more, which is a little bit more tacky. Then to set the PLOUISE base, I'm just going to lightly pat on the same loose powder I use for setting my foundation. I like the colour that it is, so I don't want to change it. I just want to lock everything in place. So next I'm going to go with a wee bit of liner. I'm going to keep this very thin for this look. I want to be slightly thicker in the outer corner, but not too much. And I absolutely love this liner. It's such a nice shade and it's so matte. The only thing is, because it does dry so matte, it can start to flake a little bit. So you can see like a little flake fell on my skin. It also makes it hard to get a really sharp line because it's starting to dry as you're trying to pull it. But for this look, I don't really care about it being sharp because I want to smudge out the outer corner. So I'm going to take a little bit of a dark shadow and just lightly pat it on the outer half of the liner. So this is going to help to blend that back into my bronzers, and it's also going to give me more of a smoky look to the outer section of the eye, which is going to help to lift that part of the eye up. And to finish off the top of the eye, I'm just going to pop on a pair of fluffy lashes. These are TL1 from TATTI lashes. Even though it's more of a natural eye look, I still love quite a dramatic lash. So next I'm going to go with skin, which is my favourite part. I'm going to start by priming my skin. I have oily combination skin, so I'm really oily in the centre of my face, which means I have blackheads, open pores, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to use a smoothing primer to just try and cancel those out. So this is literally like poly filler for your face. Anywhere you have texture, it will smooth it. And the rest of my skin is more normal to dry, which can look a little bit dull. So I'm going to apply a hydrating Radiance primer to the outer sections of my face, and this is going to give me more of a dewy finish. I really like this one because it's not too glowy, so it doesn't highlight the texture in your skin. It just gives you a nice freshness. For foundation, I'm going to go in with the shade 238 in the Matte and Poreless from Maybelline. I absolutely love this foundation. It's actually probably one of the cheapest ones in my kit, but it's my absolute go-to, especially on myself. I think it's so nice whether you've got dry, oily skin. It's not too matte. It gives it really nice coverage, and it literally is flawless. So if you're like me and you have issues with open pores or texture in your skin, it's a really good one. It also has a really good shade range as well, especially for being so cheap. And I'm just using the same blusher brush I used to apply my Radiance primer with. I like to pat my foundation on. I feel like when you're patting, you're starting to layer the product more, which is going to give you a fuller coverage with less product, so it doesn't look cakey. And it's also going to help to flatten texture in the skin. Whereas if you were to buff it, it tends to pick up little bits of texture and make them more obvious. So by patting it down, it's going to make it flatter, which is going to give you an overall more smooth, flawless finish. Just be really careful around your brows. You can use a smaller brush to get closer in there. So next I'm going to go with concealer. Sorry, my lighting's changed here, guys. I had to get up and chase my dog out of the room because he was just trying to steal absolutely everything. So again, same with my foundation. This is actually one of my cheapest concealers in my kit, and I absolutely love it. This is my favourite concealer I ever used. I always go a couple of shades lighter than my foundation because I really like to brighten these sections of my face, and I apply it underneath my eye, down the sides of my nose, so it reverse contours my nose and makes my nose appear slimmer, in between my brows, under my forehead, and also in the centre of my chin. With my under eye, I always like to start a little bit lower, kind of more around the top of my cheek, and then I'll just blend the excess up to underneath my lash line, just because most of my fine lines and creases are right underneath my lash line. So I feel like if I put too much coverage there or too much product, it settles more in those fine lines. It makes them more obvious. And again, I'm going to be patting this out with my fluffy brush, and you can use a beauty blender for this, but I'm just not a beauty blender person. I love my brushes. They're like my babies, honestly, and I just think with cream products especially, like, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I just don't think you can clean a beauty blender properly, like get right inside it, and then all I ever think is what could be living inside that, and that's a little bit traumatizing. So I'm sorry if I've just traumatized you and you love beauty blenders, but I just had to share that. And then I'm going to take another wee concealer, a wee bit lighter this time. I'm going to pop that anywhere I feel like I still have quite dark shadows on my face. So the deepest part of my under eye, focusing mainly on my tear trough, and then sometimes I'll also bring it down onto my laugh lines as well. And this is really just going to brighten those areas and lift them up out of the face. So it's going to make everything look smoother, a little bit more plump. And I don't always do this, mainly just if I'm looking really tired, I need to look a little bit more awake or fresh face, or if I want more of a sculpted, defined look. Next, I'm going to go in with my cream contour and start to add definition back to the face. I'm going to start with my jawline, coming directly underneath my chin and following the whole way underneath my jaw to up behind the ear. This is going to sharpen the jawline up and also balance the warmth around the face. Then I'll go into my cheekbone, and this is where I want to focus most of my contour. I'll keep the bulk of the product in the deepest part of the hollow of my natural bone structure, so right underneath the cheekbone. By pushing that in, it's going to make the cheekbone look like it's sticking out more and really make it pop. If you're unsure where your hollow is, just suck in your cheeks and you'll see the shadow. Then for my forehead, I basically just want to change the shape of my face. I have a heart-shaped face and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I've just decided I don't want the face shape I was born with. I want to be more oval. I just feel like the more oval I am, the more symmetrical I look. So I'm trying to cancel out the little bits of my hairline that curve back to create that heart shape. So I'm lowering those down and trying to get more of a rounded look to my forehead instead. Then I'm going to go in with some illuminating drops and start to highlight certain sections of the face. So this time I want to keep this on the highest points of my bone structure. So the top of my cheekbone. I also like to do the bridge of my nose, the tip of my nose and my chin, and this is going to draw those areas out of the face, so it's going to help to highlight those to make you look more defined, and it'll also leave more of a dewy finish. Then I just take a wee clean fluffy brush and pat them back in to keep this nice and blended. Then I'm just going to lock all of this in using a wee loose powder. I absolutely love this powder. It's so finely milled and it's really smoothing on the skin and there's no flashback. So I'm just going to pat this over my entire face. I want to make sure there's no stickiness left on the skin, so I know this isn't going to transfer and it's going to stay in place all day. Then I'm going to take the same bronzer we used as our transition shade on the eyes, and I'm going to use this to start to warm up the skin and also to add definition back to the areas that we cream contoured. I really like using the same bronzer I've used on the eyes just so I can kind of tie those tones together so everything looks nice and seamless. When I come to my forehead, I do prefer to pat it on instead of buffing, just because I get a little bit of texture there, a little bit of dry skin, so it sits smoother if I pat it on instead. Then I'm going to take the same blending brush I used for my eyes and start to connect the shadow down to the sides of my nose to contour my nose. When I get to the tip of my nose, I do like to kind of round it off just to lift it a little bit more. So I'll bring it underneath the tip of my nose and I'll also create a little line just above where I highlighted to try and section that bit off and make it look more like a button nose. Then I'm going to go with a wee pressed powder and I'm going to use this to sharpen and lift my contour and also to brighten certain sections of my face. This is going to make me look more sculpted and defined. I absolutely love this powder for this. It literally does what it says on the tin. It completely airbrushes your skin and leaves it really flawless. And I'm just going to pop a wee shimmering bronzy blush onto the apples of my cheek. This has a gold reflect in it, so it's going to keep the skin nice and glowy, and it's also going to help to blend my bronzer, my highlighter and my blusher together. Before applying my highlighter, I like to give my skin a little spray with a facial mist, just because I use loads of powder, so I like to make sure all of those are melting together, and I'll add a bit of moisture back that's going to make my highlighter really pop. Then with a small blending brush, I'm just going to focus this on the highest points of my face. So the top of my cheekbone, I do a little bit above my brow as well, because my brows are so arched. I don't want to make them look more arched, so I put it slightly before my arch towards the front of the brow, just so I can lift that part up and straighten my brows a little bit more. And then even though I'm oily, I love the Tin Man look, so I'll still do the centre of my face, the bridge of my nose, the tip of my nose, my cupid's bow and my chin. Then I'm just going to go back to my eyes and finish them off by smoking out my lower lash line. So I'm pulling down my lower lash line just so I can get the pencil the whole way into the waterline, and I'm bringing it right in towards the tear duct. I'm only going to keep this in the waterline because I don't want to be too smoky. If I was going for a smokier look, I'd pull it down through the lashes as well. Then I'm going to smoke this out with the exact same bronzers I use on the top of the eye. So I'm going to start with Ting from Fenty, the darker bronzer, and I'm going to use a small stiff brush just to get this as close as I can to my lashes. Then I'm going to blend that back into the skin using a fluffier brush and our lighter bronzer, Dark Golden by MAC. And I'm just being very light-handed with this so I can get this blended really seamlessly back into my skin again. Then to finish off the eyes, I'm just going to put on a good bit of mascara. I like quite a lot on my bottom lashes, especially if I don't have much eye makeup on underneath. Then I'll just run my finger along the tips of my lashes to make sure when I look down, I don't leave little black dots in my concealer. For lips, I'm just going to pop on a wee nude. I like to use a slightly darker liner to line my lips, and then I'll shade that in very lightly around the outer border. This just creates like a really subtle ombre, so it's kind of like contouring your lips. It's going to make them look a little bit plumper and stop them from looking flat against the rest of the foundation. I think it helps to make it look more blended as well once you've got your gloss on. Then I'm going to take one of my favourite nudes. This is Hun from Jordana Tisha, and I'm going to pop that in the centre first where I want to be brightest, and then just lightly blend it back into my liner. And that is the finished look. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. Oh, Jesus Christ.